Hey guys, it's Leo with Dreaming Tree, and in this video we're going to put together our Love Blossom pop-up card. Now before I hit record here, I did a little bit of pre-prep work, and that's just because I don't want to bore you with inking, but we are actually using vellum for the flower instead of paper. You can try the paper. That may get a little too thick for the card, so I do recommend that you use vellum, and fortunately vellum inks very nicely. And what I've done with this, just regular old vellum. They come in sheets of, you can get the big fat sheets of 50 from your local Michael's or Joann's. Did a little bit of a deep purple towards the base of the petals, and then did a subtle pink at the top. May not be showing through, well, on the white you can kind of see it. So I'm gonna just show you that technique here. On a few pieces here, and then we'll get right down to the assembly, which, believe it or not, is actually going to be pretty easy. So I got my purple ink there. Let me find my purple pad. I think I may have dropped it. I did. Got my purple pad here. As you can see, it's already been somewhat used, and I'm just dab it and just rub a little bit of that off, so I don't get too much. And I'm just gonna very gently just brush some of this ink onto the base of this piece here, maybe a little bit along the sides. A nice gradient effect is what I'm after. And with each piece, because they get smaller, I'm gonna try not to maybe go up as high on the piece. Okay, so I'm just kind of starting on the edge, and then just going to work that ink all the way down to the bottom, like so. And I noticed that the more I used it with this applicator here, I was starting to get these little lines on it, very subtle little detailed lines, and I actually kind of like that because it's very reminiscent of something that you would see in nature, actually. So I kind of really dug that. And instead of swapping out and grabbing a new little applicator, I just stuck with it with the same one, and I'm going with that look. I think it's gonna add a little bit of subtle detail to it that maybe you wouldn't normally see. And what I'm doing is I'm just kind of stacking these to kind of thicken it up a little bit, so as I'm working the ink pad on my vellum, I have a little bit more resistance. Okay, so just brush that on gently. I'm not applying too much pressure. Just getting that nice purple on the bottom. That little tab is what we're going to use to actually glue the little flower in place. So it's going to look really cool once it's all done. Just trying to add a little bit of interest to the flower. You don't have to ink it if you don't want. That's completely up to you, but I think it'll look nice. So again, just kind of working that ink along the bottom third, I would say. Let me just grab a little bit more there. Anytime after I dab this applicator on my ink pad, I tend to use a little bit less pressure the next time I begin inking, and that's because obviously you have more ink on it. So if you push with the same velocity, it may look a little different, and you may get more of an intense color. And sometimes those happy little accidents pay off and they look good, but since I'm doing a video and ultimately this piece is going to end up on the website, I'd rather err on the side of caution. So I'm not going to do that. But just kind of working my way down. Okay. Again, you get the idea here. Just kind of give it a nice little gradient effect, add a touch of color to the bottom. And now it doesn't matter which way you fold this. Obviously we want the center ring with the ink to be on the inside, because that's where we're going to be seeing most of that flower. Okay, so we're going to be gluing this together here shortly. Let me grab, now with this vellum, if you want pink, I guess it depends on the brand of inks that you're using, but my pink didn't show up very well. So I'm going with a red, and using the red, it's not as vibrant on the vellum, so it turns out more pinkish and pastel-y, which is perfect for what we're trying to achieve here. So just kind of brush that ink on there nicely, and before you know it, we'll be done. We've got one more small little piece here. The actual assembly of this thing goes together really quick. It's just piecing a bunch of things, and unlike some of our slice form cards, like the pop-up ones that you see on like Love Pop, these are much easier to work with. The tabs are bigger, and there's only 4 of them, and you're not feeding things in and out to create that slice form effect. This is a completely different style of pop-up card. So, but it's going to look really cool when it's done. So again, as far as this technique goes, I'm really not applying a lot of pressure, just trying to quickly graze this, especially the edge, and then just a little bit of the surface, just to get a little bit of that ink on there. Okay. Just very subtle. You can, I mean, if you want to make your lines more defined, use your own inking technique. That's fine. Just kind of showing you how I do it. As I've mentioned in previous videos, I do like it when things are more graduated, I should say, as far as like gradients go. I like when the tone just kind of bleeds out and there's not a fine, distinctive line where it begins and ends. To me, that's more appealing to me. It may not be to you, so you're welcome to do it however you please. Okay, so that's that one. And let's just do one more here, just real quick. This is a tiny one, so it should only take a few seconds here, maybe a minute or so. Just get everything nice and folded at the score marks. Okay, and let me grab my purple. Now this little piece here that doesn't look like there's a petal on it, that is just a section that we're going to use to glue to the other section to form a complete circle. And I would hit that with some ink just because it will just help kind of even everything out and make everything look nice. So don't be afraid to hit that with a little bit of ink. Just fold that over and just brush that ink on. Okay, just moving on to the next little segment here. Again, because this piece is smaller, don't have to go as far up. Like I said, I'd probably focus on the bottom third or so. Okay, so down to the last 2 little sections here. I guess what I would keep in mind is, you know, you've probably seen a lot of flowers in your day. So kind of sounds cliche, but just become one with the flower and try to visualize what it might look like if, say, you were to design a flower and you saw it out in nature and, you know, you had the paintbrush. Okay, so again, these are going to be on the inside, so make sure that you fold this the other way now so that the inking portion is on the inside. Flip those other tabs in. Okay, just like that. All right, so we're pretty much done inking here. I'll show you a couple more things that I did. Okay, there are a couple of stamen pieces on here. Now these are really delicate little pieces, so what I did was I grabbed my turquoise and I just put them on a piece of paper. You can see this little stain here. I just ran it across there just to kind of hit it randomly. And then also ran some turquoise around the white parts for the card. And that's pretty much it as far as the inking goes. Okay, so now that our inking is complete, let us begin with the assembly of the card. I'm gonna move these main pieces out of the way here. Just clean up for a second. And here's the base of the card here. You'll notice in this one here that there's a lack of score lines in the center. That's completely by design and normal because of the vellum that's gonna be on here. It might kind of thicken that up a little bit. We wanted to reinforce that, make that a little bit stronger in that area there. So what we're gonna do is begin by putting together the inside of our card. We've got two pieces like this, okay? They're gonna get glued to the interior here, and we can actually do that first. Now you'll notice that around this little vented looking thing here, there's some notches here, and that is to help you with the alignment of these pieces. You wanna kind of butt those up against those two little corners there, and that's gonna help you make sure that you've got them in the right spot. And as long as you have those in the right spot, they're not gonna encroach on that little, the fold on the card, because we don't want that. We want to give it some space so that it can open and close nicely. Now this is one of those nice glitters that don't go flaking off all over the place. I think it's called Wow or Pop Glitter or something like that. I think it's by American Crafts. Actually, I think a lot of things are by American Crafts nowadays since they're buying everybody up. Okay, so we're just going to get that glued in place, and then we're going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Okay, so again, just make sure that you get that lined up with the nice little notches there, and that you're not encroaching on that center score line. That's perfect. And just push that down, let that get a good hold. Okay. That's perfect. This is a really nice glitter. Okay, and then we're just going to repeat on the other side and try to be gentle with that glue there so it doesn't come spraying out. And work that glue out to the edges as close as you can so that you don't get any of those little pieces peeling up. Okay. There we go. I like this texture on the back. It's kind of, well, there is no texture actually. It's very smooth and it gives you a little extra time to work with it before it completely sets. Okay, so I'd kind of hold it like this and check out those notches, make sure you've got them lined up right, and then just pop it down. And I'm a little off there. There we go. That's about right. Okay, so we've got that in place. Now the rest of this, the reason we're doing the inside first is because the rest of the card is going to cover up these little tabs that we're going to put in here. So it's very important that you do the inside first because the outside is going to cover some things up here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to grab our largest petal here. Make sure that you have the ink facing in. Okay, and just get everything nice and folded. There's going to be two tabs on opposite sides, and then this section here, this little section here, you're going to glue this together. Okay, and now what I recommend doing is getting your glue on here and maybe just doing a little area, not too big, and then you're going to want to spread this out. Otherwise it's going to look a little weird if you're using vellum. So just brush it to kind of spread it out so you don't have that telltale sign of glue being there. And just line that up nicely right on top of the other piece. And also just make sure that it folds at that little tab correctly. Okay, so kind of like that. All right, let's give that a chance to dry before we begin working with it. Okay, I think that's good enough. All right, so what we're gonna do then is we're gonna take and we're gonna slide these little tabs through the little slots. So right now, again, we're doing the wide one here, the widest piece here. Okay, let's close this up so you can see where the tabs are gonna go. Okay, we're gonna glue those in place here in just a second. But you wanna go in this way because you don't want to obstruct the, you don't want to obstruct this so that the other ones can come through. Okay, all right, so let's open this up and you can see, well, we're gonna glue those in place here in a second, but you can see what happens. It just opens and closes like that. So let's get this glued down. Okay, just put a little bit of glue on the vellum there. And I should have had you glue the other piece to this piece, but it doesn't matter, you can do it now. Okay, just be patient, let that set. Okay, and you can flip it over. And just a little bit of glue, not too much, don't need a lot. Okay, you don't need to worry about spreading that out because it's going to be hidden, but definitely flatten it out as well as you can. It'll just make the process that much easier. Okay, and once it's dry, it's going to pop open like that for us. Okay, so you can see here that you don't see any indication of glue there on the vellum, so you definitely want to make sure that you do that. All right, so we can move on to the next section here. We've got this flower here, and I'm going to just go ahead and put glue on this here to connect that, and then just a little bit here on this section. And again, I'm going to spread that out. Okay, and get that glued down. I'd probably fold that little flap over and use that as kind of a guide because they should sit nicely on top of each other. Okay. There we go. All right, now one other thing, that looks good. One other thing we can do here is rotate this. Okay, so you see how on this side we have 2 tabs and on this side we only have 1. Probably be a good idea to stagger this so that we can kind of keep the thicknesses consistent. All right, so I'm gonna feed the side with the 2 tabs onto this side here because there's only 1 tab here from the first flower or from the first section of flowers. Okay, so just feed that through the tab, just like that. Get it in as deep as you can. Oops. And go ahead and close it up. Make sure it folds flat nicely. Okay, make sure it opens up nicely, and it does. And probably pull this out a little bit, as much as you can. Okay, and then grab some glue, pop it right on that vellum, and just pull it and push it down. And push and hold that down until it sets. And same thing on this side. Just grab your glue, throw a little bit on there, and pull it and push it over and hold it down. Let that set. Okay. Try to flatten it out as you go. Okay, and there we go. Flowers starting to come together here. Looks really pretty. Okay, and onto our next layer here. Now this one again, this one's getting a little bit smaller now, but still really easy to work with. So again, let's glue our tabs together first. That part we don't really need to worry too much about, but let me get some glue on this section here as well. And again, spread that out. If you want to use a brush or something else, that's fine. I just use my fingers. because I'm hardcore. Okay, and just fold that over and just kind of put that down on your table and push that in place. Give it a sec to dry. Okay. All right, and let's get this guy in place here. So feed in through the next section of little slots there. Okay, probably didn't let that dry long enough. And I'm gonna clean this up a tiny bit because I needed to get the glue out all the way out to the edge here, which I didn't do. Let me do that. And let that set completely. Okay, let's try that again. So again, just kind of feeding the tabs through the slots. Make sure it closes nicely. And pull the tab out a little bit, as far as you can go. Add a little bit of glue. And pull that over and push it down. Okay, give that some time to set. There we go. And same thing on this side. Just pull it out. Don't really tug on it too much. Just give it a little bit of a yank, just to make sure that you've got it out as far as it can go. And then fold it over, push down, and hold that down. Okay, let's have a look here. That's looking gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Really pretty. Okay, next layer. Again, just make sure that your inking is on the inside. Now wait a minute, I didn't do the pink on this one. Silly me, what am I doing? Let's get some more ink on there. Let's get that pink on there. My team would have been really disappointed with me, I'm sure, had I forgotten that. I don't know how much you'd really be able to tell, but well, you guys probably wouldn't even know about it. Okay. Get that ink on there, just nice and subtle. This is a really easy piece since it's so small. That's good enough. All right, so again, keeping the ink on the inside, we're gonna glue this tab, this little tiny tab here. Again, you don't need to worry about smushing the glue down on the bottom, but on this top piece here, you do wanna kinda even it out so it doesn't look bad. I'm just gonna do that. Okay, and then either behind it or in front of it, I don't think it really matters. Whatever you end up doing will be fine. I'm going to put this one in front. Okay, and just connect those two and hold that until it sets. All right, and then let's feed that through the last two little slits. Get those in there nicely. Close it up. And again, I'm just gonna take that. Now this one here, you can actually fold this way, and that's probably good because that will make it less bulky. So go ahead and get some glue on that tab and just fold it over. And hold that down while it sets. Flip it over, and let's do the other one here. Okay, yank that out a little bit if you can, and press and hold that down. Okay, let's take a look. Yay. Okay, so we're just going to finish up the middle section here by taking our little stamen pieces. You want to go ahead and fold these. Okay, you'll notice that one side is a little bit longer than the other. This is going to be towards the center, like so. Okay, and you want to go ahead and put glue just on this section here. And of course, again, I'm going to want to spread this thin and just kind of do that so that it doesn't show up and you don't see little glue streaks. It actually helps it sort of set faster too. So let's get that glued in place before this all dries up. Make sure that you're not obstructing that little score mark area. Okay, should kind of look like that. There we go. And let's make sure it closes, and that will actually help us setting it in the appropriate location. And helping our glue situation here. That looks good. Okay, and then we'll get the other one in place. And that's pretty much it for the actual mechanism. As you can see, it's pretty easy. And the card is really a wow factor sort of design. And then we just have to dress up the exterior and we'll be in good shape here. So again, I'm just going to kind of brush that glue on so that you don't see the little streaks. You still may see them a little bit, but not as bad. Okay, and then just get that in there. Try to nudge it over to the left as best as you can. Okay, and then let's stamen kind of make it hard to work with this, but not hard, just maybe slightly annoying because they're all trying to get in the way. Okay, just kind of ruffle those around a little bit, maybe free them up because it looks like they all want to give each other hugs. I love you, stamen. Okay, that's pretty good. Just fold that over, there we go. Okay, and then close it up, make sure that it folds nicely. Okay, and then that looks great. Okay, so next thing we want to do is just kind of dress up the exterior with the little overlays and the little hearts and all that good stuff. But there is your gorgeous flower card. Okay, so that looks great. Now I noticed that this little tab here didn't really stay for me. So I'm just going to add a little more glue onto this and push that back down and over just to make sure that it sticks. Technically, it really doesn't matter which side is which here, okay? Because this thing is geometrically perfect. All right, but in any case, I have this pattern here with the hearts, so of course this is going to be my front. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to lay down this little panel here, okay, and get that nice and centered on there. Okay, so we're going to take our front panel here and we're going to glue that on centered on the card, okay? Don't worry about that little piece there. We've got another little piece that's going to go over this to cover that up. So you want to go ahead and get your glue on this piece here and get that glue out to the edges nicely, nice and thin. We don't want to warp the paper, but we do want to make sure we get good coverage on this. I'm barely squeezing this and moving it around really fast so that it gives me a very, almost like a perforated look. Okay, these little cutouts here, you want to make sure that they're over on the right-hand side, and do your best to get that nice and centered all the way around. I think I did pretty good there. And just push that down. Make sure it's on there nice and tight. Okay. There we go. Okay, and of course that's not going to mess with anything on the inside. That looks good to me. I think I got it pretty darn straight. Okay, let's go ahead and put the back on. Okay, so again, this is the back piece. You're going to do the same thing. Just get your glue on this piece. Oops. Get that glue out to the edge nicely. If you feel like you've got some areas here that are maybe too much glue on them, just rub some of it off. Okay, and again, I'm going to stand up here so I can get a better look at what I'm doing. And just get that nice and centered. This is a perfect little area on the back here for stamping or writing your little message for your little love bug. Okay. There we go. Just like that. Okay. Now let's take a look at, just get our back piece on here. Now there's two pieces like this. One of them has some little notches on it. That's for the front. This is going to be for the back. Okay, and that is going to go on your card like so. It's going to cover that up and kind of create a floral little pattern for when this thing opens up on the back. Okay, so go ahead and get your glue on this piece here. And you want to do your best to center this as well, because we want these pieces to line up nicely when you have the card opened up. And get some glue along the edge there, and I would run it out all the way to the edge just to make sure that that part holds nicely. Okay, grab it by the two sides here, and again, if you have one of these, actually is very helpful because you can kind of see where the center point is, and that helps you with your alignment. And when I say these, one of these little cutting mats, because this card is 2, 4, 6, 7 inches wide, and this guy here is in the middle, so I just kind of lined it up with the center of that. So that kind of helps with eyeballing things. Okay, just make sure that that little edge there holds nicely and dries nicely. Make it look nice and seamless. There we go. Okay, so that's our back. And then we're going to put on our front. Okay, let's shift gears for just a second here, because I did forget to glue these little hearts here to the interior. There's two little notches on either side, on each side I should say, and that is to help you with the placement of these hearts. So just make sure that you get the heart squeezed right in between both of those. The inner one is for the tip of the heart. The top one, or the outer one I should say, is for the little part of the heart that dips in. And just make sure you get that aligned properly. There we go. And aside from our envelope, there's really not much more to do with this thing here. We just have to put the little front piece on there, and your card is ready for Valentine's Day. It's definitely going to be probably one of the cooler ones that you've ever given. And I'm sure that whoever gets it is going to be thrilled. And they're going to think you're a genius. Okay, let's just fold that over a little bit. There we go. Okay, so again, I'm going to actually put this on first before we do anything else. So I'm actually going to put this on first before we put these little overlays on it, just so that it's easier to work with. And again, so check out this, this mat here. You can see here that this is 7 inches. Okay, this would be the center point here. And then after I put my glue down on this, I'm just going to try to align the center here with those little dots there to make sure that I've got it centered. And then when I do that, it should line up perfectly with that. We don't want to add notches all over the place on this, because if you're slightly off with this piece, then nothing's going to match up. So you're going to have to use your eyeing skills to get this nice and centered. And even if it's a little bit off, I don't even know if anyone's really going to look at the back of the card, because they're going to be so fixated on the inside. But I'm just maybe being a perfectionist at this point, and that's okay. Strive for perfection, and if it doesn't work out, at least you could say that you tried. Okay, all right, so let's get this lined up. Let's get this lined up. I'm gonna go eagle eye here, and that looks about right. Okay, and I'm just gonna kind of push from the edge here just to make sure that that's properly lined up. And just push that down right along that edge there. This is the most important part here along this seam, just to make sure that you're kind of holding that down to let that glue really set. Okay, so give that a second before you go opening the card and jostling it around. Okay, that looks pretty good. That looks nice, great. All right, so final finishing touches here. We've got this little heart here. You can see the little scallops on it are gonna match up with that piece there. So you want to go ahead and let me clean my glue tip off. It's looking a little hideous. And I'm just going to do dots for this. It's such a small little piece. Maybe some streaks here and there too. Okay. And you just want to match up this little divot here in the center of the heart, as well as the scallops. Just make sure you get that overlaid accurately. Push down. That looks nice. And the turquoise around the white is kind of pulling from this glitter here. Looks really nice. Okay, we've got this gold foil. Not gold foil, I'm sorry. It's like a red foil. When I think foil, I think gold for some reason. A red foil little heart that's going to go inside of this little glittery area. You want to make sure that you get this nice and centered. Okay. And just hold that down, kind of nudge it around, make sure that you've got it nice and centered. Should be a nice even border going all the way around. Okay, and that leaves 2 little hearts here that are going to go on either side. Just get your glue on there. And follow the little notches on there to help you with the placement. Okay. And probably should have inked that a little bit. So definitely go ahead and, if you're using a red foil, maybe ink those edges, because I've got a little bit of an unsightly white kind of showing through. It's really bad on that one, but we'll fix that. I'll probably just throw another one on top of it. It'll be a little more dimensional and it'll hide the imperfections there. So again, just get that one nice and aligned. Okay, pardon the beeping. That was my camera notifying me that someone's trying to break into my house. Just kidding. Okay, well, there you go. She's a beauty. A really gorgeous card. Came out nicely. Okay, so let's take just a minute here to take a look at our envelope, because we do include an envelope. Okay, so you've got these pieces here. I'm gonna go ahead and fold everything at the score marks. And first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take this overlay piece here, or underlay, and get that glued in place. It's just to kind of help Cupid show through nicely. And what we're going to do is get our glue on here. Now you don't want to go all the way out to the edge because that glue's not going to go out to the edge. I'm just going to use dots around all these little details. Try to get them into the little detailed areas as well so that it sits nice and snug. And then kind of visualize the size of this thing and kind of put the glue in these little areas here where you think you're going to need it. Okay. Got my texture side facing through the cutouts, and I'm just going to lay that down, just making sure that it's pretty even in the back. Should have a nice little border happening. Fold it in, push down, and let that set. Okay, kind of take my fingernail and rub along the little score line area, kind of flatten that out a little bit. Just make it look nicer, okay? And then just take these two flaps, fold them in, and fold this flap up. And we're gonna put a little bit of glue. Now this is where sometimes I noticed that I put too much glue on this and it kind of warps that little section. So be careful, don't do too much. And if you do, maybe just dab that glue a little bit so that it doesn't warp. And then go ahead and push that down, let that set. There we go. Have ourselves a beautiful little envelope for a gorgeous pop-up Valentine's Day card.
Stay on top of all things Dreaming Tree and engage with us today. Get the latest news and enter in our giveaways on Facebook. Get inspired by following us on Pinterest. Be the first to see our new product launches on Instagram. Do you prefer Twitter? Yep, we're there too. Watch our beautiful product trailers and assembly tutorials on YouTube. For more information, visit www.3dsvg.com. Live, craft, love, and dream.